appreciate your cooperation. Thanks very much.
She had 2 seats, and I have 2 people looking for seats. Yeah.
I said, take my seat right there.
We've got 2. Sheila Derman doesn't have a seat. Okay. People have to raise their hand if they have.
What are these 3 seats right here?
Thank you. Thank you very much.
If you have an empty seat at your table, please raise your hand. We have people looking for seats, single seats, 2 seats.
We just talked about that. It's not.
There's Sheila, right there. She just raised her hand, yes. Ask Robin. What about Dr. Rabowski? That's where Robin and Dale are sitting. Does Dr. Rabowski have to sit there? I don't know, but I can't believe he needs 4 seats. So let them sit there. Okay. For who? I know. We already did. Ladies, please take your seats. We're starting now. If you have an empty seat at your table or 2, a single or a double, please raise your hands. I see a hand back there. Please take your seats. Raise your hand if you've got a seat empty at your table. We have people looking for seats. There's over there, over there, on the far right. Keep going, all the way over. Unbelievable. They've all had to check in, and we've told them they cannot if they haven't paid. What? Okay, ladies, we're going to try this again. Please take your seats. We are starting now. We would appreciate it if you stopped the conversations so you can hear us. We still have people looking for some seats. Give them my seat and Gail's seat right here if you need to. I will. Shh. Thank you very much. I know we have a huge crowd today, as you can see. Lots of people looking for seats. We appreciate your cooperation. Our meeting of the Bethel Sisterhood is officially called to order. My name is Freddie Silverman. I am one of the co-presidents. Gail Glick, in the purple dress, who matches our table decorations, is our other co-president. She'll be speaking a little bit later. I'd like to give a warm welcome back from the summer to everyone. We're happy you've joined us for this exciting new year. We have a very tight schedule today, and with a lot to tell you, so we apologize in advance if the pace seems a bit quick. We ask you to please hold any conversation until lunch so everyone can hear. Our goal is to finish the business meeting, which is very abbreviated, by 11:30, and we will begin lunch at that point. Ladies, there are seats up here. If you're still looking for a seat, there's a seat here. Yeah, they told us 2 of them. Okay. All right, first thing, I would like to take one moment to introduce our officers because we have so many people here today, and many of you don't know who the officers are. Again, I'm Freddie Silverman. Gail Glick is our co-president. I'm going to call the names of our other officers. If you could please stand, we would appreciate it. Our VPs, our vice presidents, are Carol Matz, Myra Coonan, and Helen Friedman. Our recording secretary is Harriet Weiner. Corresponding secretary is Marcy Kaplan. Our treasurer is Barbara Green. Financial secretaries are Renee King, Fran Crystal, and Barbara Roth. Our controller and budget coordinators are Glenda Chernoff and Alice Kurak. And our parliamentarian, who I know is not with us today, is Edie Bondroff. We have a few thank yous that are very important because it takes a village, as you can imagine, to start off the Sisterhood year. Many of these women and their committees have worked through the summer so that we could be here to enjoy this program and luncheon today. Thank you first to our 3 financial secretaries, whose names I just announced, who were previously introduced for keeping track of dues, new members, and all the data that is sent to them. And we realize that some things fall through the cracks. We have lots and lots of introduced, continuously work to ensure that all committees are set up and functioning smoothly. None of us would have gotten in the door today without the hard work of subscription coordinator Randy Jacobs and reservation coordinator Michelle Weisbrot, along with Michelle's sign-in crew who was at the door. And we know there were some issues. I will tell you that every year we have some confusion. People pay their dues and they think they've paid for the luncheon and they have not. So we will get it all straightened out, but everybody sitting in this room will be, if we don't have something from you, you will be contacted very quickly after this meeting. Thanks to our top-notch program committee, headed by Dale Kahn and Robin Kleiman. We always have the most sought-after and dynamic speakers. This year's program schedule is, as always, marvelous. How about this gorgeous room? Our very creative decorations committee, led by Ruth Green, creates wonderful and colorful atmospheres for us every month. And some of you that came in when there were a lot of people already here didn't get to see how pretty the room really looked, but it's beautiful, so thank you. Also a note that I forgot to mention, please turn off or mute your cell phones. Don't just turn the volume down. That doesn't stop your phone from ringing. You either have to mute it or turn them off. We would appreciate it. And I will remind you again when we're finished the business meeting. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank our food committee for all their hard work. In addition to the monthly luncheons, they also manage our offering of side dishes and desserts for Rosh Hashanah. Don't forget to order, and you will hear details about this during the Vice President's reports. Our member outreach chair, Patty Levin, has done an outstanding job of greeting and providing an orientation for many of our new members. Someone at the new member meeting left this jacket. If you're in the luncheon, please claim it. It's not yours, but you know who it belongs to. Okay, thank you. We'd like to warmly welcome all the new members that are at our luncheon today. And I would like to ask you to please stand up. New members, if you're wearing a flower, if you're a new member, stand up, stand up, stand up, stand up. We want to see all your faces. Whether or not you went to the meet and greet, if you're a new member, that's okay. Just stand up. If they're wearing flowers, they were at the meet and greet. And we would like, please make an effort to introduce yourself to our new members. We have an unbelievable amount of new members, and that continues. Okay. Shh. Thank you to all the other committee chairs for all of the tireless work throughout the summer for the upcoming events that you will hear about during the committee reports. The Judaica shop, despite being closed all summer, was busy selling all summer long by appointment and now has wonderful new merchandise. For your convenience, the shop will be open after the meeting today until at least 2 p.m. or until they're finished ringing up all the sales. Please stop in, look around, and make your holiday purchases. One of the things that everyone can do to help Sisterhood is to be a program sponsor, which means making a donation in honor of or in memory of someone or something, and having that donation announced at the next program. I would like to call up Bobby Selnick, who will read the sponsors for our meeting today.
Hi, everybody. It's great to see so many people here. Any donation you'd like to make in honor of anything. So here are the ones for today. This is from Gail Glick in honor of the birth of the granddaughter of Myra Coonan, wherever Myra is. There's too many people I can't. Oh, there's Myra. Congratulations, Mazel Tov. This is also from Gail Glick, and this is to Frida Fryman, in memory of your beloved husband, Moises Fryman. May his memory be a blessing. From Sherry Stewart, wherever Sherry is, in gratitude, can't even read today, in gratitude for my recovery from surgery. So we all wish Sherry the best. Another one from Sherry Stewart, in honor of Bethel Sisterhood, with wishes for a successful year under the leadership of Freddie and Gail. So thank you.
Bobby. Terry Zimlin.
Okay, I forgot one more that came online. This is from Terry Zimlin in honor of the recovery of her friend's granddaughter. Thank you, Freddie.
Okay, now we'll move on. We're going to do things a little bit differently today. Normally, we hear from the three vice presidents, but to keep things moving, Gail Glick, our co-president, is going to read all of the VP reports.
Good morning and welcome to everyone new, old. We welcome you back to Sisterhood. From the committee of Carol Matz, the Bibelo Committee by Edie Bondroff and Anina Rosenzweig, our first Bibelo will be held on September 18th in the Offutt Auditorium at noon. Feel free to bring a dairy lunch. Drinks and snacks will be provided. The book is The Women by Christian Hanna. Edie Bondroff will do a review. The second Biblio will be held on October 16th at noon. The Heaven and Earth Grocery Store by James McBride. This book will be reviewed by Susan Posner. Fall fundraisers. Carol Matz is in charge of that. We have 2 fall fundraisers coming up. Please shop at Morgan Truesdale for your holiday hostess gifts, candy, and nuts from Monday, September 16th through Monday, September 30th. Also, Quarry Wine and Spirits is hosting 2 days of giving back to Sisterhood with your purchases made on September 17th and September 24th from 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. For all these purchases, please remember to mention Bethel Sisterhood. They will donate 15% proceeds to Bethel Sisterhood. Lois Balzer wants us to know about Federation. They're holding their opening meeting on Thursday, September 19th at 9:30. It's a breakfast meeting. The speaker is Lola Hahn. Stories of Survival. Check the scoop, the Sisterhood scoop, to register. Fall Game Day. Fall Game Day will be held on Wednesday, October 30th. The committee chair people are Beverly Penn and Esther Shine. It will be held in the Offutt Auditorium from noon to 3:30. The price is $40 per person and includes a delicious lunch and snacks throughout the afternoon. Reservations close on October 21st. Please encourage your friends to reserve a table for their favorite bridge, canasta, mahjong, Scrabble, or any other game you would like to play. You can register online, and the flyers are in the Sisterhood corner.
Tell them it's almost sold out right now.
Oh, and I present Myra Coonan. The Torah Fund is headed by Jane Crozin and Gail Sugarman. The Torah Fund cards are on sale in the back of the auditorium. The Torah Fund supports JTS, the Jewish Theological Seminary, where future clergies are educated and all of our clergy attended. There are several types of cards: Mazel Tov, Sympathy, Welcome to the World, and more. Please see Jane Crozin or Gail Sugarman. You get 6 cards for $20. There is a letter of this on each table that talks about JTS. Lashana Tova from Sisterhood. This is from Donna Unterman, our Luncheon and Food Committee. We're having holiday slides and desserts. Let us enhance your holiday meal. We are offering kugels by John Kaplan, the Wandering Chef, Rosendorf's Challahs, and Sion's Desserts. Orders must be received by Thursday, September 19th, and picked up at Bethel on October 1st. Please see the flyer on your table or at the Sisterhood corner near the exit. All of our flyers are in the Sisterhood corner near the exit, and it lists everything that we have going on. So this is the Quarry Wine. Everything is in that corner by the exit. Helen Friedman's, Vice President Helen Friedman, the Program Committee, Dale Kahn, and Robin Kleiman. The Program Committee is very excited with thought-provoking and diverse lineup of speakers for our 9 general meetings and our Meet the Authors evening programs. We are extremely privileged to have Dr. Freeman Rabowski, President Emeritus of University of Maryland, Baltimore County, to speak to us today. We are very excited to welcome Dr. Thomas Scalia, Physician-in-Chief at the world-renowned Adams Cowley Shock Trauma Center, when he will be our guest speaker on Monday, October 14th. To see the entire list of general meeting speakers, please refer to the flyer that showcases all of them. You can pick up the flyer in the lobby by the exit. A brief bio of each speaker can be found at the Bethel website on the Sisterhood section. Our 4 evening Meet the Author programs will begin in December. Stay tuned for more information in the future. We have our shredding event hosted by Sandra Cameron and Denise Franz. Do you have some confidential documents and papers you would like shredded and out of your house? Then please join us on Sunday, October 27th for Sisterhood shredding event on Bethel's parking lot from 10 a.m. to 12 noon. We are in need of volunteers to help on the day of the event. Please sign the volunteer sheet that is being passed around today if you would like to help. In addition to yourself, please feel free to volunteer your husband and or son to help lift the bags out of the car. It will be a fun morning and we could really use their assistance. Flyers are available for congregants and Sisterhood members and posted in various public locations in the area. If you have any questions, please contact Sandra Cameron or Denise Franz with any questions. We know this will be a very successful event. And last but not least, the trip committee report. Robin Kleiman and Sandra Cameron have been very busy with their committee all summer, and we would like to introduce you to 2 trips that are open for registration. On Tuesday, September 24th, we will travel to D.C. to spend the morning with a guided walking tour of beautiful, historical Georgetown. The tour ends in Washington Harbor, where we will have lunch on our own with tables reserved for our group at Founding Farmers, Fishers, and Bakers. After lunch, our bus will take us to the majestic National Cathedral for a guided tour. The cathedral has been the site of presidential funerals, inaugural prayer services, and many historical moments. As of today, there are only 6 spots left for this trip, and the registration closes this Friday, September 13th. The second trip that is currently available will be on Sunday, November 17th, to see the Tony Award-winning musical Hell's Kitchen. The musical is loosely based on the childhood Grammy Award-winning artist Alicia Keys. It features both original and new iconic songs. Registration is open to Sisterhood members, and as of today, the congregation members and Sisterhood spouses and significant others. Next Monday on September 16th, the trip opens to everyone. Registration closes on October 1st, and as of this morning, we only have 5 seats left. Our October 28th trip will not be open for registration until late September. We will travel to Grounds for Sculpture in New Jersey. This amazing combination of beautifully landscaped gardens along with almost 300 sculptures and indoor art exhibits will be a special day. We are having 1 bus for each of our trips. Registration is available by clicking the link on the trip flyer or going directly to the Sisterhood section of the Bethel website. Always remember that if a trip is full, don't be discouraged. We always keep a waiting list, and we usually end up using to fill cancellations. Remember to watch your emails. That's how we communicate. And look for the Sisterhood scoop that comes out at the end of every month. Thank you.
You've got my stuff.
Oh, I have it too, so.
Okay, thanks. Okay. Some other important announcements. First, on behalf of the Sisterhood Board and our Executive Committee, we wish everyone a very healthy and happy New Year. Our next general meeting is Monday, October the 14th, when we will hear Dr. Thomas Scalia from the Maryland Shock Trauma Center. The deadline to register for in-person attendance, if you don't have a subscription, is Wednesday, October the 2nd. If you've got your subscription, you have nothing to worry about. You're all set. But other than that, Wednesday, October the 2nd is your deadline. Remember that in between meetings, you can buy contribution cards at the office. Also, as a reminder, at the back table, whenever we have a meeting, you can buy contribution cards, you can buy the cookbooks, you can contribute to the Torah Fund. Those are the folks that are always sitting at the back table. If you submit any checks, please make sure they are made out to Bethel Sisterhood, not Bethel Congregation. Those are different accounts. And when you sign up for luncheons, please make sure you specify which meeting you're signing up for and make sure you give us your email address. That is how we communicate with you. Okay. We understand, we know that there are some new members here who did not attend the meet and greet that was right before this meeting. We would like to get some information packets to you. So if you're a new member and you didn't attend the meet and greet, just raise your hand when I'm finished speaking, and Susan Hackerman will come around and get your name and contact information so we can get that to you. Our raffle drawing for door prizes is going to be held at the conclusion of the program, so please stay for that. People should have been walking around selling those raffle tickets, and if they weren't, they'll start again during lunch. Okay, I would like to call on Bobby Selnick to lead us in a prayer and the Hamotzi.
Hi, I'm going to share, it's a prayer, but it's kind of a prayer/poem. It's called, if the people in the back would get quiet, I really appreciate, by Marge Piercy. White butterflies with single black finger paint eyes on their wings, dart and settle, eddy and mate over the green tangle of vines in Labor Day morning steam. The year grinds into ripeness and rot, grapes darkening, pears yellowing, the first Virginia creeper twinning crimson, the grasses dry straw to burn. The new year rises, beckoning across the umbrellas on the sand. I begin to reconsider my life. What is the yield of my impatience? What is the fruit of my resolve? I turn from the frantic white dance over the jungle of productivity, and slowly a noggin slides cold water down my throat. I rest on a leaf spotted red. Now's the time to let the mind search backwards, like the raven loose to see what can feed us. Now the time to cast the mind forward, to chart an aerial map of the months. The new year is a great door that stands across the evening, and Yom Kippur is the second door. Between them are song and silence, stone and clay pot to be filled from within myself. I will find there both ripeness and rot, what I have left done and undone, what I must let go with the waning days, and what I must take in, what I have done and undone, with the last tomatoes we harvest, the fruit of our lives. And let us say, Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. Okay, everybody find your bread, because we're going to say the Hamotzi. We can say it together. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech olam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Enjoy.
Thank you.
Bread is really stale. The bread is really stale. Touch it.
It's been sitting. Well, no, it's not too bad. Okay. Before we break for lunch, I just want to give you the schedule of what's going to be happening. At noon, Betsy Narrow and the Beer Cot group will be leading us in Beer Cot, even if some of us are still eating. So we apologize ahead of time, but we want to make sure everything is complete before our program, which is to begin promptly at 12:15. Thanks for your cooperation. Are my raffle ticket sellers in the room? Is anybody in here selling raffle tickets? Okay. We're going to get the raffles. We'll be walking around selling them during lunch so that we can call those winners after the program. And now Marlene Siegel will be calling table numbers so that you can go up to the buffet and get your lunch.
May I have your attention, please, before we begin? There are a lot of new people here, so I want to explain how we do this. Excuse me, can we please have quiet so everyone can be served quickly today and every day when you come? If you look to the sides, this is the kitchen side, and this is the window side. And you will see two tables, and they have a color on that table. Please go to the table that I call you. If I say blue, go to the blue table, because it's divided so we can move quickly. Please do not have conversations, but move along so that everyone can be served in a very fast manner. If you have questions, there are. All right, just to begin, the tables blue and turquoise are the kitchen side, and the pink and purple are on the window side. First, please do not talk and not go to the table when you're called. We have over 200 people here, so we were trying to move quickly so you can have a leisure lunch. Blue table, kitchen side, table 5. Turquoise, kitchen side, table 24. Window side, pink table 3. Purple table is 21, table 21. Please go quickly to the tables. Table 24 went to the turquoise, and purple was table 21. Five went to the blue table, and 3 went to the pink table. Table 7 goes to the blue table on the kitchen side. Table 7. Table 9 goes to the pink table. Window side. Table 14 goes to the turquoise table on the kitchen side. Purple table is table 22. Table 22, you've been called. Please go to the purple table. Table 6, go to the blue table on the kitchen side. Table 6. Table 15, go to the turquoise on the kitchen side. Table 8, go to the blue table on the kitchen side. I had you at 3. I called you. I called. Where's 4? I'll call you next. Dale, you have to let me know. I thought you were 3. You always sit at 3. You always sit at... I got so screwed up. You did the numbers different than I normally do it. I was like a wreck.
Yeah, no.
Okay, you're the next one.
Because they put the numbers.
Okay. I called you because I have to do the way I can do it.
I'm going to tell you what the problem is. We have so many more people. We have so many more people that they're...
They'll come around. Table 2, pink side window. Table 2. Table 20, purple, window side. Purple 20, table 20. Table 16, turquoise, kitchen side. Table 17, turquoise on the kitchen side. Table 17. Table 10, window side, pink table.
Marcia wants to know. Where are you sitting? What
Oh,
table are you
I'm
at?
sitting at 8.
8.
I have that thing for you. Table 10, window side, pink table. I'm at 8.
Huh?
I'm at 8.
Okay.
Now, how did these people all get over there? The people who were at the turquoise table, Some of you come up to the front, to the blue table, please. The people at the turquoise table, if you would listen. It's ridiculous. They went, oh, when they went, just went there. Table 1, pink table on the window side. Table 1. Table 12 on the window side, purple. Table 13, blue table on the kitchen side. And table 24, turquoise table on the kitchen side. Table 11, pink table on the window side. Table 23, purple on the window side. Table 19, you can go to the pink table because the purple table's busy. All tables have been called. I saw 18. 18, you may go to the turquoise or the blue table. 18 can go to either table, blue or turquoise.
Ladies, if you would like to buy raffle tickets, raise your hands. We've got people walking around. Okay. Just keep your hands in the air and we'll get to you.
I know you're all still eating, but I'm going to ask my beer quartets to join me, please. Thank you, Esther. Ladies, as she said, you can continue eating after we're done doing the beer cut. So in about 2 minutes, so that I'm right on schedule with Freddie's request, we'll do the beer cut in about 2 minutes. There you are. I thought that was you over there. You don't look happy. I'm sorry. Good.
And I have food in my
Even though you pulled back, you still have all that. Here comes Bill.
Put on your finger. Oh, here comes Jade too. Thank you.
I'm going to call you. Mazel tov for your nephew. Was it nice? I wrote it to you. I wrote to you.
You could be in choir.
Howard Goldberg was leading was at services in the
doesn't
morning,
start until, but-
and that's what. Oh my gosh, we're doing great! Look at this crew up here. That means you have to sing double loud. I'm Betsy Narrow. I seem to have the thing on my face that says Beer Cut Lady. And now I'm happy to welcome all of you. This is the Beer Cut. If you do not know it, hello, hello, hello. Shh. Thank you. I only want to hear your mouths chewing. And singing, or humming, or anything. But there are parts in English that if you don't know the Hebrew, even though there is transliteration, you can do the English part really loud. All right, are we ready? I don't hear anything. Yes. Thank you. That's them. Have Rai Nivarech. Yehi Shem Adonai Mevarach Mi'atav Yad Olam. Bershut Chaverai Nivarech Eloheinu Shelchanu Mishalo. Shelchanu Mishalo. Uvtevo Chayim. Baruch Eloheinu Shelchanu Mishalo. Uvtevo Chayinu. Baruch Uvarach Shemo. Baruch Atah Adonai. Eloheinu Melech HaOlam. Azan et ha'olam kulo v'tuvo v'chein v'chesed v'rachamim rachamim hu notein lechem l'chol basar ki li'olam chasto uv'tuvo hagadol tamid lo chasar lanu v'al yasar lanu mazon li'olam va'ed Ba'avor Shemo Hagadol Ki wazon ufarnes lakol Umetiv lakol Umechin mazon Lecho briotav asher bara Baruch atah Adonai Hazan et hakol. This is in English, so you all have to respond loudly. All of us start. Go.
Praise be God, whose bounty we have partaken, and through whose goodness we live.
Praised are you, our God, who provides food for all. We are grateful for your gift of Torah, enriching the minds and souls of our people. Adonai, our God, bless all assembled at these tables. Bless all who are rebuilding Zion so that your word may again go forth from Jerusalem. Bless all who help to bring forth justice and peace in the world. Kakatu v'achalta v'savata uvarakta et Adonai Elohecha aha aretz hatova asher natan lach baruch ata Adonai aha aretz v'al hamazon Uvenei Yerushalayim ir hakodesh bimhei ravi amenu bimhei ravi amenu Uvenei Yerushalayim ir hakodesh bimhei ravi amenu Baruch atah Adonai boneh v'rachamav Yerushalayim, Amen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, Ho'el Avinu Malkeinu, Adireinu Boreinu, Goaleinu Yotzreinu, Kadoshenu Kadosh Yaakov, Ro'enu Ro'ei Yisrael, HaMelech HaTov HaMeitiv Lakol, Shebachol Yom V'Yom, Hu Heitiv, Hu Meitiv, Hu Yetiv Lanu. This you all know. Oseh Shalom V'Romav, Hu Ya'aseh Shalom, Aleinu V'Al Kol Yisrael V'imaru Amen. Adonai Oz Li'amo Yitain, Adonai Yivarech et Amo V'Shalom. At the bottom, let's all say it together because that means you have said the birkat or blessing after meal. May God give strength to our people and bless us all with peace. Amen. Much better, guys. You're doing great. Anytime you want to. Tomorrow, wherever you want to go. If anybody wants to join us, we're going out to breakfast. Lunch tomorrow.
I'm with you.
Okay, I'm good. Call me. Please.
After Tuesday.
Okay, ladies, last call for any raffle sales. We're closing that out. If you want any and you haven't bought them, hands up in the air. What? Ladies, if we can have your attention, we're going to be starting our program in about 3 minutes. Shh. We're going to be starting our program very shortly. I do have one other announcement. On your tables, you may have gotten a flyer that looks like this, that says Remembrance Garden. One of our new members, Janice Altman, where are you? Stand up. Stand up. Janice Altman, who is a member of Bethel and a new member of Sisterhood, has made a terrific donation has endowed, I should say, a remembrance garden for Bethel as a place of peace and reflection. And it's called the Janice B. Altman Lador Vador Fund, which was just established. Thank you very much. On Sunday, October the 6th, members of the Bethel community are invited to attend the official unveiling of the garden as we memorialize those lost on and since the October 7th massacre. There is a schedule where all of the affiliates and different parts of the congregation where people are going to sign memorial stones, and Emily Schwab is going to be our representative. She's going to sign the stone for Sisterhood that day. But we just wanted to mention this. You should have a flyer about it at your table. You'll also get emails about it from the congregation as well as Sisterhood, and we want to thank Janice for that endowment. Okay, Robin Kleiman is going to be introducing our guest speaker. Thank you.
That works. Good afternoon, everybody. I can't believe how quiet you've stayed. You're already doing such a good job. I'm Robin Kleiman. I feel like I'm at the opening day of Ravens Stadium here. It's amazing. I want to start with a big thank you to my co-chair, Dale Kahn, and the entire program committee. We come together and we make it happen. I also want to thank my dear friends, John and Beth Phillipson, for making the connection today with today's speaker, Dr. Freeman Hrabowski. Thank you. First, it is my honor to brag a little bit about some of Dr. Hrabowski's many accomplishments. His biography is really impressive. Freeman grew up in Alabama and was a child leader in the civil rights movement. He has gone on to become a renowned educator, mathematician, and advocate for diversity in higher education. You may know Dr. Hrabowski as President Emeritus of University of Maryland, Baltimore County. He held the position for 30 years, from 1992 to 2022. And during his administration, he is credited with transforming UMBC into a national leader in STEM education and research. He had a real presence on campus and is well known for his personal interactions with the students. Dr. Hrabowski's research and publications focus on math and science, and he is particularly known for his work in promoting minority achievement in the science and technology fields. I'm going to name just a few of his many accomplishments. He partnered with philanthropist Robert Meyerhoff to create the Meyerhoff Scholars Program, a highly successful initiative that has produced numerous African American scientists and engineers. In 2012, President Obama chose Freeman to chair the President's Advisory Commission on Educational Excellence for African Americans. In 2022, he was elected to the National Academy of Engineering. Later that year, he was named the inaugural Martin Luther King Jr. commemorative lecture speaker by Harvard. In April of 2023, the National Academy of Sciences awarded Freeman the Public Welfare Medal. And Freeman has also co-authored a number of books, including his most recent book, The Resilient University. The list of his accomplishments is long, longer than I have listed here. The bottom line is that Freeman Hrabowski's dedication to creating a supportive and inclusive learning environment has had a profound and lasting effect on the lives of countless students. In 2012, Time magazine named Freeman as one of the world's 100 most influential people, and we are so lucky. We're so lucky that although he is asked to speak all over the country, he has generously and enthusiastically agreed to speak to us today. Dr. Hrabowski's talk will be followed by a Q&A, his favorite part of the program, where you can feel free to ask any questions, even the hard ones. He is well known for his ability to capture and engage audiences. Enjoy.
Good afternoon. I am. Yeah, I can see everyone. Can you hear me in the back? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? No, okay. Then great. I will talk from this. Let me start. But first of all, I had a delightful conversation with Robin and Dale, who gave me a sense of this group. It's not working now. Did I touch something? Very good. I am a mathematician with no common sense. Let's start there. All right. So let's have some fun today. I will speak for 15 or 20 minutes at most, and then I would love to have exchange for you to ask me questions. And I want to start by thanking John and Beth Phillipson, who years ago saw a program on 60 Minutes, on the Meyerhoff program, and came over and met and took a family foundation and took funds and established a Phillipson Family Endowment for students in the Meyerhoff program. Would you give them a round of applause for that? Really, very, very nice. Very, very nice, given that they're not graduates of UMBC, and he has the audacity to have his medical degree from Italy, in fact, and speak Italian. And so we're very honored. Let me start by saying that all of you are people who care about education. I would know that already. And that when I speak to educated groups, American groups, I'm especially interested in giving some larger context about where we are in higher education in our country. And when I combine that with what Robin and Dale asked me to talk about the evolution of UMBC, I have several things to say. First of all, how many of you are old enough to remember when it was called UMBEC? I thought you would. I thought you would somehow. We stopped calling it that, all right? And what I said when I first got there 30-some years ago, I said, do we call UCLA UCLA, right? So let's just, so the initials work, USC, UMBC, KFC, right? Those kinds of things. And I often say I was meant to be in Baltimore, and for my wife and me to live here and stay here. You hear the story of people coming to town, planning to stay 3 or 4 years and leaving, and Jackie and I just celebrated our 54th wedding anniversary. So give her a round of applause. And she spends most of her time down in Hilton Head. We're homeschooling our grandson, our 12-year-old grandson right there. But I'm back and forth here. Interestingly enough, the year that UMBC's charter was given by the legislature, excuse me, was the same year that I heard Dr. King speak at my church. I was 12. I had skipped a few grades, so I was about to go to the 10th grade. And I had old parents who just literally, I was an only child, and my parents just immersed me in reading and thinking. And so the children of older parents become older somehow. And so I was moving ahead. But I'm sitting in the back of church. I don't want to be there. And they placate me with the one thing I loved, mathematics. So I'm doing my algebra. And the man at the lectern says, if the children participate in this peaceful protest, all of America will understand that even our young people know the difference between right and wrong, and that they want a better education. And I looked up and I said, who is this guy? And his name, of course, was Dr. King. And I went home and I said to my parents, I want to go. I want to march in this peaceful protest. And what did my parents say? Absolutely not. And I was a rebellious kid. I was nerdy, loved my math, but I was rebellious. And I said, you made me go. I didn't want to go. You told me to listen, and I kind of listened. And now he tells me what he wants me to do, and you won't let me do it. You guys are hypocrites. Now, at that time, you did not tell your parents they were hypocrites. So what does my dad do? Of course, boy, go to your room. So I knew I was in trouble. The next morning, they come in, they had not slept. They literally talked and prayed all night. And they said, it's not that we don't trust you, we know that if you march, you will go to jail, and we don't trust the people in the jail. But if this is what's on your heart to do, we'll put you in God's hands, and you can go. And they did allow me to go, and I did go, and I learned to lead a little group, and there were hundreds of students, but at the point that we had moved from 16th Street Baptist Church to the City Hall, and I'm there at the steps, and the police commissioner, a name you may remember, Bull Connor, he looks down at me and he says, "What do you want?" And he uses that N-word, and I said, "We want to kneel and pray for our freedom to have a better education." And he literally spat in my face and picked me up and threw me into the police wagon. And I spent a week in jail. I tell you that story not for sympathy, but rather because it was an empowering experience. It taught me to not let anyone else define who I am, to not be a victim, and to believe that even children can have an impact on their own lives. And during that week, in the middle of the week, Dr. King came with our parents. And we're looking out the jailhouse, out the bars, and it was awful, not enough restrooms, smelly. And he said this: "What you children do this day will have an impact on children who've not yet been born." And while we didn't fully sense the profundity, we knew it was something special about that. Well, fast forward, and in that same year, some of you are old enough to remember that in that year, two things happened: the bombing of the church, the 4 little girls, my friends, and there's a Spike Lee movie documentary on that in which I talk about what that meant to us. And then later on, the assassination of our beloved President Kennedy, just awful. Now, when I wrote this, it was during the time that I was the chair of the Obama Commission on Education for African Americans, and anything I wrote for publication had to be approved by the White House, where all the young people in the White House were under 40. And so when I said to them something about the fact that many people would not have been alive in 1963, they said, "Well, why is that important? Why is that important?" Right? And because the fact is, almost 70% of Americans today were not born, had not been born by the mid-60s. Do you get that? It's important for, how many of you in the room were in the world by 1963? I love you, I love you, I love you. Is there anybody here who was born after 1963? Oh, I really love you now. Because normally some people very proud will raise their hands and say, I was born, and I say, "That's disgusting, leave. Wait a minute." But I'm in a room of people who appreciate what I'm saying. And here's the point, that during that period, life was very different in so many ways. We know that. But I'll tell you, shortly after that 1963 experience, something happened. We had the election when President Kennedy was assassinated. You remember we had a Southerner who became the president, Lyndon Johnson. And to everybody's surprise, he fought for civil rights. And we had in 1964 the Civil Rights Act, and in 1965 the Higher Education Act. And it changed America more than most people realize. What percent of Americans do you think in the mid-60s had graduated from college? What do you think? I heard 25, I heard 30, I heard 40, 15. Are you saying 5? Or were you, somebody raised their hand? It's actually only 10%. Only 10% of Americans in 1963, 64 graduated from college. And even if we break it down by race, everything in those days was black and white. Only 3% of blacks, and those were mainly from historically black colleges in the South, but only 11% of whites. So I want you to put in context the fact that 90% of Americans had never seen anyone in their families graduate from college. What do you think the percent is today of Americans? What percent of Americans have graduated from college? What do you think? I heard 75%, 65%, 40%, 60%, 30%. How many of you don't know? All right. And this is why, and I asked why, somebody would say, why are you spending so much time on this? We learn in education that the more we have people think about things rather than just be given information, the more they will remember. You won't forget this when I tell you. Today, only about a third of Americans over 25 have graduated from college. Now, all of my friends of every race will say, but Freeman, everybody I know has a college degree. Duh. Teachers are around teachers, and lawyers are around lawyers, and doctors are around doctors, and just educated people are around educated people. But there are many people who are doing fairly well, who are in the trades. Plumbers do well, and there are many others. And the point is this, that today, and in Maryland, we are the best educated in the country. We're always in the top 2 or 3. Massachusetts, Colorado, and Maryland. Give us a round of applause for that. It's a big deal. And so the numbers break down this way very quickly. About 40% of whites, about 28, 29% of blacks. The Latino population, which is growing, is only about 20%. But the Asian population is the best educated in our country. Now, what percent of the students at UMBC? I said the charter for UMBC was 1963. The first students entered in 1966, the same year I entered college as a young kid in Virginia. And the first students graduated in 1970, but a number of students from this area went to UMBEC for a year or two, and then because we were just developing as a university, it was transferred to College Park. All right? Well, here's the point. The university has now gone to Research 1 status, meaning it's in the top tier of research campuses. It is well known for science and engineering, but it's also very strong in the humanities. I was just talking about one of my graduates from right here in Baltimore County, who is now the only professor at Columbia in the classics who did not go to an Ivy League institution. All right, his name is Joseph Howley. He graduated from UMBC and went to St. Andrews for his PhD in Scotland. And now he's in the classics and in Greek and Latin. And Greek and Latin are still taught at UMBC. It is, I like saying, it is a campus that shows America that one can come from a middle-class family or a working-class family and become the best. And become the best. Now, putting this in perspective, the idea is this. In the 60s, after the Higher Education Act, states began to understand more people will want to go to college. Before that, people either went to wonderful private institutions or to the big flagship in the state. So for Maryland, it would be College Park. For North Carolina, Chapel Hill. For Virginia, UVA, right? And then all of a sudden, or in California, Berkeley. And then all of a sudden, other campuses started. So the UCal system, which is by far the most prestigious public system in our country, started UCal, UCLA, UCal Santa Cruz, San Diego, Davis, and all those campuses. All right. Similarly, the SUNY campuses, State University of New York, started a number of campuses that started in the 50s and the 60s. And here we had a teachers college, Towson, right? And we had some of the black colleges. UMBC is the first university in the state of Maryland founded at such a time that students of all races could go there. Every other university was started either for blacks or for whites, right? That's one of our distinctions. And today, the campus has students from over 100 countries. What percent of my undergraduates do you think have at least one parent from another country? Take a guess. Have at least one parent from another country. 60, 75. I'm impressed that you would know that. How many of you have known somebody to go to UMBC? How many of you have known somebody to graduate from UMBC? Okay. Here's the point. 60+% of the undergraduates at UMBC have at least one parent from another country. Why is that? We in Baltimore sometimes forget, first of all, that the Baltimore-Washington corridor is very international. Very international. And the highest achieving blacks in America tend to have a parent from another country. But let me say this. Throughout the 20th century, the best thinkers, the highest achievers, often either came from another country, somewhere in Europe, or their parents did. When I spoke for commencement at Brooklyn College and City College, and they had the 50-year classes back, everybody's parent had come from some European country, right? And they went on to be the best, to be the very best. And what we as Americans of generations seem to forget is it has always been the case that the highest achievers, the hungriest people for learning, tend to have come to this country for the purpose of having that freedom to get that education. That's of all races. So that when you think of the first black woman to run for the presidency was Shirley Chisholm, who was my commencement speaker at Hampton in 1970, of all things. Congresswoman, our parents were from the islands, you see? And so I want you to think about this fact that one of our challenges in America is to appreciate that the reason we are the most powerful country in the world, one of the major reasons, and the best educated, is that we have been a country that has accepted people heavily from Europe throughout the 20th century, now from Asian countries, and from some African countries and the islands. And those people have often gone on to the top. The challenge we face at UMBC is to continue to help children from this country to do well. And that means from the eastern shore of Maryland to New York City to Baltimore City. And so the Meyerhoff program, which I was asked to talk about, began because we knew we were having problems with black students in general not succeeding at the university, that we would accept them from the city and they just were not well prepared. And at the same time, there were whites who got in who were not well prepared. And I was interested in looking at why that was the case. Well, the big deal was many of the kids who came to UMBC came because they wanted to become physicians. And what was happening was most of them couldn't make it in science. They did not do well in science. And we could see that the black kids were flunking out, but what we didn't realize was a lot of white kids were flunking out also. The black kids said that the university was racist. The white kids said it was cold. All right? And I began talking about that. And interestingly enough, Bob Embry over the Able Foundation had heard me talking about it. And he said, why don't you go and see Robert Meyerhoff? He wants to do something to help black males. He said he and his wife Jane, wonderful Jane Meyerhoff, were already supporting Goucher, her alma mater. So they were doing things for women there. And I went and saw him, and within a matter of months, he and I talked about it. He wanted to help black males because he said everything he saw on TV about black males was either negative or about sports. And his point was to have strong families, you need strong men and women. And as a result of that, I asked him for a gift, and he was wonderful. At that time, he said, tell me what you want. Put it in a page. I don't want to read more than a page. And ask for what you want. Well, I asked him for an amount more than I could ever have expected in 1988. I asked him for $500,000, hoping he would give me half of that. And he read it, and he asked me a lot of questions. And he said, you've got the money. And I said, how much? He said, what'd you ask me for? I said, $500,000. He said, you've got it. So I wanted to faint at the moment. I really did. Since that time, he's given so much more. But the point is, we started the program, and the goal was to show that kids of color, black kids, could succeed in science. And succeeding by not just making it, but becoming equipped to go on and to earn a PhD in science. Because fewer than 2% of the scientists in America at that time were black. Today, it's still not 3%. But the significance of all of that is that first year, male. Second year, we brought in women. We began getting matching money from federal funds and from other donors and wonderful people. And when the 60 Minutes piece came out, people learned about it. Here is the most important point. UMBC, with a campus with students from 100 countries, with about 20% of the students as black, has become the #1 producer of African Americans who go on to complete PhDs in STEM and MD PhDs. How many of you took the Moderna vaccine? The Moderna vaccine was created by NIH, and the woman who led the team is a Meyerhoff scholar. Her name is Dr. Kizzmekia Corbett. She's now in the faculty of Harvard. She's still not 40 years old. She's the first black woman in the world to create a vaccine. Give her a round of applause, would you? And so people around the world, I work with other countries as they work in England and other places, Canada, as they're trying to figure out how to help people of color in general to do well enough to succeed in science. Because what we saw during COVID is that we need many more people in science and in medicine. At the same time, we need people who are strong in the humanities and people who have the ethical concerns is a part of what I want to talk about just for a moment. That we in America tend to think that you're either in math and science or you're in history and English. How many of you knew by the time you were finishing high school that you were better in either math or in English? That you either think in math or science, right? We tend to think the person's either an English person, humanities, or they are a science person. And in America, we tend to think the girl is going to be the English person and the boy the science person. So I often tell American mothers, if you were not good in math, don't tell your daughter that. Because as soon as she hears you say it, she's going to say, I'm like my mother. So a woman asked me, she said, what do you want me to say? Just tell them you're still learning it. It's never too late to learn math. My mother had been an English teacher, and she was fascinated when something came out called the new math. And all the teachers were afraid of it, and she was courageous, and she liked math. She went back, and so she became an English teacher and a math teacher. And this is what she said that was interesting. Give me a child who can read and think well, and I can teach her to solve word problems. Because if you go to physics or chemistry, those are word problems. But we don't make the connection between the two. And we accept the idea. How many of you in this room love math? And you are a well-educated group, and maybe 20% of you. You get my point? In our country, unlike some others, women and girls are taught you will be excellent in math. So in Russia, in Turkey, we see that. It's amazing. Only 20% of the computer science majors in America are women. And most of the women professors are often either from Russia or Turkey or Israel. Very few American girls grow up to be taught you might want to be a computer scientist. And this is one of the challenges, and this is why beyond the Meyerhoff program, we have a Center for Women in IT to produce more women of all races who will excel in math and science and in computing area, because much of the future will involve those areas coupled with greater understanding of the humanities. So it's not the tyranny of the or, as Jim Collins would say. It's the genius of the and. It's to teach our children, yes, to be proficient in technology, but also to read and to love the humanities and to be able to think about the ethical questions we face in our society. And that has been the challenge we face right now. Final point I want to make is this. We are only now with a third of Americans with a college degree. If you look at voting patterns, you will see that the East Coast and the West Coast, California, Seattle, New York to here, Maryland, Northern Virginia, better educated, and you see voting patterns of a certain type. You go to the South, you go to the Midwest, people who have not, and while there are many educated people in those places, a much larger percentage of the populations are not with education and are more easily convinced by showmanship, may not know how to think critically, you see, except in the big cities. In my state, in Birmingham, because of the University of Alabama, Birmingham, you see more people who are voting in a way that many of us would vote. But you get to other parts, and people don't know. They don't know, have not been taught the critical thinking skills. So one of our challenges and what I work on around the world and in our country is just that, not just helping more people become proficient in science, but to get the public appreciating the value of educated citizens who can think and who can decipher a lie from the truth, and who will understand something that many wise people have said. The more you know about a subject, the more you realize there's much more to know. Anytime anybody is so passionate about one thing and saying that's the only answer, I'm wondering how much do they really understand? What is the level of depth of their understanding of the challenge? And so as I go around dealing with protests on campuses, trying to help presidents work through these protests, as I go today after leaving here to Pittsburgh to work with all the communications experts from around the country who work with presidents in figuring out what do we say. The message I'm giving is the need to think about what wisdom means. It was Samuel Beckett, the Irish novelist, who often wrote en français in French, and he wrote a book in which the character studies the dancing of bees. When bees are dancing, they're actually communicating. And he says, here is something I could study all my life and never understand it. But the more he understood the communication among those bees, the more he realized there was so much more to know. And there is the significance of wisdom. That something that in every Jewish congregation, any group, that education for you, critical thinking, is one of those values. You're always asking the questions. It's like Rabi, the Nobel laureate, who said in the 40s, after winning the Nobel Prize in physics, as I close, he said, all of my friends' mothers would ask them when they came home from school, what'd you learn in school today? He said, not my Jewish mother. He said, my mother would say, Izzy, did you ask a good question today? Isn't that wonderful? And he said that practice of encouraging his curiosity made him the thinker. And so I now open it up. Let's ask some good questions. Thank you. So anybody, please, all the way in the back. Yes, hi.
Hey.
Can you hold on a second so that everybody can hear you?
You're doing well, though, because I heard you say,
Can everybody hear her?
Her concern is AI, and she has a particular question about AI. It's right on the minds of everyone.
Well, I have a lot of concerns, but
Yeah.
AI is something that I'm, completely, I mean, you can get on there and tell them to write a paper for you.
Yeah.
And it's like people are using it, and it's like when I read somebody a text or an email or something, I recognize the fact that this didn't come out of their brain or their mouth.
Yes. Yes.
So,
Yes.
I mean, what are colleges thinking about
Yes.
with AI?
Yes. It's an excellent question. Let me start by saying that throughout my career at UMBC, and that's 30-some years, we have been involved in artificial intelligence. And one of the reasons is that one of our largest employers is the National Security Agency. You see, one of the reasons so many of my students have a parent from another country is that many of my students are the children of retired military people in the Baltimore-Washington corridor who married somebody from another country and came here, all right? And so of the 20,000 mathematicians and cyber types at NSA, well over 1,200 are my graduates. And NSA also works with high school students in the corridor. One of the reasons the schools in Columbia and Montgomery County are actually better in science than even the best of independent schools is that many of the teachers and children work in national agencies while in high school. Now, what does that mean for the question? There are rooms at UMBC where I can take you, and if you have your purse with a credit card, the room can begin talking to you as if it's known you all your life from your credit card, and can ask you all sorts of questions beyond fact. And that's been the case for some time. It's, you know what, we all let a particular year slip by. When we were growing up, 1984 was the future. Do you remember that? 1984 and Big Brother. And here we are now, 40 years later. Oh my God, where did the time go? But Big Brother has been here a long time. When you go into stores and you have your purse and a credit card, they know you. They know how you buy things, what you like, what you don't like, but they can know much more than that. They can know if you've had a death in the family. So all of that's just where we are, number one. But number two, what are universities doing? Number one, we can determine with great certainty when a student has written something through artificial intelligence. There's all kinds of software. First of all, you just said it well. Sometimes you just know when you read something, this person didn't write that, right? But there is software so that students know this is cheating if you're just giving me something from ChatGPT. No, will not work. No, all right. I remember some years ago, we had a number of students applying to us because hundreds of students had been expelled from UVA because of software that showed they had been cheating, for example. So there is software to do that. But here is the positive side that I want all of you to think about. If you've not done it, try ChatGPT for this reason. The only way it can really be helpful to you is if you can ask a question that requires critical thinking. If you ask it a factual question, that's like Siri. What's the weather going to be tomorrow? But where ChatGPT becomes particularly significant is in being able to respond to questions that are not with factual answers, that require critical thinking, positives and negatives. My wife surprised me with a car much nicer than I ever would have bought for myself. And she had worked at T. Rowe Price for years, and she said, Freeman, and I was always saying public officials shouldn't drive anything too fancy, right? So she brought me this fancy car, and I said, oh my God, I can't drive this. She says, you're no longer president of UMBC, you can drive whatever the hell you want to drive. You deserve it. So I asked GPT, what are the pros and cons of a former college president driving a Mercedes, right? I couldn't believe the answer. It was unbelievable about perceptions, right? About what are your values and blah, blah, blah. I kept the car though, I really did. But my point is that we are learning, we're teaching people, teachers, how to teach students to use AI in such a way that we're still using our brains and thinking more deeply about issues, rather than simply becoming the servants of robots. And to understand that AI is just a technology. Now, I will tell you, we are on the brink of having artificial intelligence with great emotions. When people say, to be able to write poetry, for a long time we thought only human beings could write poetry. No, but there's this thin line between technology and humanity right now. And it will be crossed. It will. The challenge we face, and it's one that we heard about before 1984, is to not let the technology rule us. And this is why the humanities and the arts are more important than ever. This is why when I'm preparing a young woman to create a vaccine, I wanted her also to have a major in the social sciences so that she could be thinking about critical issues involving COVID and different populations and the need to have women and people of color and poor people in pilots to understand the impact on them. So, excellent question. Thank you. Next question, please. Yes. Uh-huh.
We were taught to think and to evaluate. And our education system has declined for the most part all over the country.
And she raises a very good question. How do we improve our education system to ensure that our children, our young people, our adults can think critically in comparison to before? Two things to be said. People from privilege receive a first-rate education in America. People from privilege in the past. People who were not from privilege. And when I say privilege, I don't mean super rich. Working class, middle class people, where you have parents who supported the kids in their education. They got a good education. But a lot of people, up until the 60s and 70s, didn't have the preparation to go to college anyway. They did not get it. At best, they were getting vocation. And there's nothing wrong with vocational education. But we still should be teaching everybody to think critically, regardless, right? And what I would say is this: there is such variation in our system. If you go to wealthy counties in this state or in the country, the education is superb. Children in Columbia and Montgomery County are best in the world. One of the reasons, many of their parents are professors at Hopkins, College Park, UMBC. Many are from other countries. They learn several languages. I decided to study French because I work with a number of French-speaking countries and the presidents in African countries when I'm teaching at Harvard. And we Americans we know the line. If you speak 3 languages, you're trilingual. 2 languages, bilingual. 1 language, American, right? And the old joke, but it's so true, we don't. And so, je parle français. J'étudie le français chaque jour. When I first started about 6 years ago, my students said, "Don't you think you're kind of old?" And that was all I needed, right? So, mon professeur est un originaire de Normandie. Il est très rigoureux, but j'étudie le philosophe français. Every night I'm studying French. And I work with French-speaking countries. And I tell you that because as you learn languages, it's not just about the language, it's about how people think, their values, the culture, you see. And I would suggest that the best systems in our country still think about a global education and critical thinking. Unfortunately, urban settings and those that have a lot of kids from urban settings will have variations in the schools. There are some schools in Baltimore County that do a fine job. There are others that do not. You see what I'm saying? And we need more. The specific answer, though, is that the National Endowment for the Humanities and even NSF, both are working on ways of teaching teachers how to do more with civics and critical thinking, because we have not taught people, you're absolutely right, how to decipher between a lie and the truth and how you go and study those kinds of things. It's an excellent point. It really is.
Freeman, I have somebody back here.
Hi, I'm very familiar with articles about you in the Sun paper, and your resume here is astounding and marvelous to listen to, and I feel as if I know you.
Thank you.
That's the first thing. The other thing is when you're talking about AI, you talk about Alexa. My sister always says, you don't want Alexa, it spies on you. You know, they're sort of AI. But my question to you is, you mentioned at the start that your grandchild is being homeschooled.
Yes, yes.
And are you the major teacher in that?
Oh.
And is this geared towards STEM because that's where you and his parents would like him to go?
Oh, it's a great question. Great question. First of all, people ask why we're doing it. Well, there's several reasons. First, he is on the spectrum. And I've not always been happy with what I see in schools. Some schools are better than others. Sometimes people think because a child is different that he or she is not intellectually capable. And he needed a greater, more maturity in his behavior. He's good, and he's highly functioning. And then because of life circumstances and his mother who travels a lot, my wife, who is his #1 learning facilitator, much better than I. Jackie has a background in early childhood through doctoral coursework, and then she was vice president at T. Rowe Price for years. And great story, I always tell my students about gender and math. When I first went to college, I thought I was the smartest kid in the room. I was young, I was 15. And we had the first calculus test, and I just knew I had the highest grade. And the teacher said, I will call out the names of those who got an A. And at the end, I'll let the one person who got 100 come up. And she called out all the names, and I kept waiting for my name to be called, and it was not called. And by the time she got to the 5th name, I had tears coming down my face. I finally learned I was not the smartest kid in the world. And then she said, but only one person got 100. And I want that person, Coleman, to come up now. And all of a sudden, a girl, all the guys got ready to get up, and a girl got up very humbly and walked to the front. And I'm so immature, I hollered out, I'm going to marry her one day. And I did. So I tell my students, if they're smarter than you are, marry them. Believe me, marry them. And she was always so humble about it, but she had been the geometry champion in Virginia because her dad built houses. And she saw connections in between geometry and construction, you see? And I tell you all that to say this about gender and my son, no, he is rooted, first of all, in the humanities. My mother is all in me. She's the English teacher first. And so Zora Neale Hurston, Ships at a Distance, have every man's wish on board. For some, they come in with the tide. For others, they sail forever on the horizon, never out of sight, never landing, until the watcher turns his head away in resignation, his dreams mocked to death by time. That is the life of men and women. The goosebump stuff of poetry. So Jackie and EJ and I learn poetry all the time. EJ is studying classical piano right now, for example, okay? And because he wanted to make me melt, sometimes he would say, and I love math, Papa. Now, I knew he didn't. He really did love math. But he has said it so much that he does like math now. But no, we want him to be broadly educated. I don't care what he majors in. I just want him to be broadly a thinker and somebody who has a heart. That's the point for me. It really is.
I just wanted to ask a quick question.
Yes.
Sorry, it's back.
I'm looking for you. Oh, great,
Okay.
great.
I just like your input on the repeal of the affirmative action for colleges and where you think it's going to go and what do you think is the future?
Yeah, it's a real challenge. I was expecting this to happen. You know, we had something like this happen with the Banneker decision at College Park some years ago, because the Mile High program had first been for little black kids, and the Banneker in our district, our region of the country, because of the Banneker decision at College Park, you can't have just race anyway. And so we worked with the Attorney General and came up with the idea that the Mile High program would have kids who are underrepresented, from families that are underrepresented in science, but also others who have an interest in broadening participation, in helping more people to make it in science. So the Mile High program right now, people don't know, is at least 40% white and Asian, and 60% Latino, black and Latino. And that is where the country has to go. I was very blessed. The greatest honor, I should tell you, first of all, is that Bob Meyerhoff, who really did want to help black children, because he said he knows from his own childhood how Jews were treated, even wealthy Jews in America. And he said, and then I look at what happened to blacks. He told me this when I first met him, okay? And he says, and I know people don't expect a lot of black children. And he said, I'll never forget it, he said, I believe that if those children were given the same opportunities as my children have had, that they could do well. He said, what do you think, Freeman? It touched my heart, he did. And Jane, they both, just that way, all right? And now Rita Becker is wonderful in being supportive of the same way, they're wonderful. Bob is now 100 years old. We had the birthday party out of the National Gallery where he's leaving the wonderful estate. And he is still intellectually keen. He and Rita still ask good questions about the MILE program. And at the corner of it, the question you just asked, this idea, what is going to mean for affirmative action? Well, institutions must find language that allows them to continue to be inclusive, okay? I worked with the Howard Hughes Foundation. Some of you don't know, HHMI, Howard Hughes, is the largest biomedical foundation in America, and it's in Maryland. If you didn't know it, it's down in Bethesda. You would never see it because it's in a residential area and just nice brick things, it's a nice resident, but you go there and there are lots of acres, and it's got $24 billion, okay? And so I've worked with them for years, and they have replicated the MILE program now at Chapel Hill and Penn State, and the Zuckerberg Foundation replicated it out in California at Berkeley and San Diego, all right? And recently, Howard Hughes gave me the greatest honor. They named a program for new faculty interested in broadening participation. And I said, let's make it 30, 40% of color. But I want a lot of whites who are interested in these areas, because you can't do it by yourself. So the program is probably 40% of color, 60% white and Asian. And they're called Ribowski Scholars. And they put into that program $1.5 billion. Give HHMI a round of applause for that. The only problem I have is I always think when you name something after somebody, they're already dead. You know, but the point is that I think affirmative action, we don't use that language, but I do think if institutions want to be inclusive, they can find language that talks about helping doctors who may help people from underrepresented groups, you see, of all races. That's going to be the answer. Yes,
We talked about AI.
Yes.
And we have to be very careful with it. You said it. Because they asked AI about the Holocaust, and it said it never happened.
Oh.
I read it.
Oh. And that's, I would not disagree with you at all. You need to take it all with a grain of salt, because what you get out of a computer has a lot to do with what you put into a computer. All right? And we need to be questioning anything. We need to be and this is why the truth and history are so important. I was a part of a trilateral study group between Germany and Japan and America 30 years ago. And there were 5 leaders from each place. And one of the reasons that the German government had done it was that they had awful people who were trying to question the Holocaust. And they wanted us to study true history and to understand what had happened in that country, what's happened in other countries. And what was so clear to all of us as young leaders, we had to be under 40 at the time, was that as much as we knew, 2 things. Number one, people who experience it themselves get it at the gut level. And unless one generation teaches the next, just reading it won't get it completely. You get my point? That somehow we have to, as one generation, through not just what we write and read, but through our talking it, people need to see us when talking about the Holocaust and the fact that people are descendants of people who were killed, were murdered tragically. It has to be said. It's very much so. So your point is well taken. It really is. Yes. Where do I go? This side first. Is that okay? And then over here, okay?
Well, oh, sorry. When my kids were growing up, I was very involved with PTA, and also they talked a lot about, feeding the pipeline, so you're on the higher education level, but you mentioned before that you had trouble because kids were coming in that weren't prepared. Mm-hmm. And that's been my concern, with our public education system and maybe how we're preparing our teachers, number one. And a lot of people don't want to go into education. Right. So how can we, number one, get people to go into really interested in education? Yes. That's number one. And number two, prepare them for in a way that makes learning interesting. Yes. Like you talk about connecting things. Yes. I remember when there was this one woman who was a scientist. Her kid was this was years ago, so when my kids were little, and she said, they're not teaching science in a way that makes it interesting. Like talk about the streams or talk about, how it affects the environment and make it the kids really, it makes it matter to them.
Yes.
They're in this classroom taking tests that don't, rely on anything. Yeah. So where is the leadership in education about making education meaningful, about, bringing parents in to make them the community in to help with volunteering in the classroom. Right. You talked about the kids that got connected to the programs with science, but what about other kids that there's communities all over the place. So how can we pull that all together? How can we have like a master plan to kind of improve the pipeline for education?
Sure, and I get that. I've been in almost every state, working with state school boards and superintendents. I have to tell you, there are so many systems that are unbelievably effective in innovation in teaching and learning, and then others that are not, okay? And I would say in our state, it varies by county. It does. But there are 2 or 3 things to be said. Number one, best practice says you don't just lecture people even when I'm talking to you, you notice how I was trying to ask questions? President Stanford asked college presidents, how long do you think college students can focus in a lecture before they fade out? It's actually 8 minutes. All right. Now, the NIH, all the institutes of NIH, National Institute of Health, are here in Maryland, except for one in North Carolina. And if you go to neuroscience, how long can a discipline, you are among the most privileged people in the world. When you're the most privileged in America, that means in the world, because we are, by far. How long can a privileged, educated group, such as yourself, how long can you concentrate on a lecture before you begin to fade out? What do you think? Depends on the speaker, she says. How long? How long would you say? The maximum amount of time you can focus is 20 minutes. Now, you are well educated, so you can look at me like you're still listening, but you're thinking about something else. And then after a few minutes, you come back to it, right? Why do I tell you that? Because a part of the innovation is we've got to get away from just talking at people. We've got to engage them in the work. I give a math problem that I'm going to leave you with, of all things, a math problem, right? Because I want women in America to think about math, okay? And humanities. It's a 6th grade problem. And the fact is that even PhDs have to think about it. It says 29 children are in a class. 20 have dogs. 15 have cats. How many have both a dog and a cat? Do not holler out an answer. We Americans want to answer like that. 29 kids in a class. 20 have dogs. 15 have cats. How many have both a dog and a cat? Now, innovation in education means I'm not going to tell you the answer. That I want you to dream about it. Think about it. Get some wine and talk about it. All right? We don't talk about math in this country. We just don't. All right? And I want you to, just with your friends, and ask your kids about it. Okay? And I'm saying we have to do much more of that innovation. Anyway, the audacity of me to give somebody a math problem, right? They say, why would, there are 3 groups in this room right now. There are those of you, and I can go on a little longer, because I told them to give me, I've got a few more minutes, if it's okay, okay? Okay, I appreciate that. Dale's been very happy and supportive. I can make it to the plane. The nice thing is, a lot of UMBC people work at the airport, so when I come in, they kind of ship me on through. Go on down. They give me a wink and let me get on through. But I want you to think about her question. The question is, how do we educate those, the bottom half of America? The top 40% are well educated. They just are, for so many reasons. We can always keep teaching critical thinking, but the bottom half, there's this growing divide between working class people and people who are well educated. You heard me say only about a third have college degrees. It's really hard if you're first in your family to go to college now to make it, and we've got to work on that. And the Sherman Scholars Program is an example of teaching teachers who are going to work anywhere from pre-K on up, heavily in math and science, but with strong reading. George and Betsy Sherman. Betsy had been a teacher, and she taught 50 years ago in Northern Virginia, and she was the only white teacher in a minority school, and her husband was an engineer. And she said what she learned was that a person of any race can teach a child of any race if you care. And so they've now given us millions of dollars to prepare teachers for inner city schools and to help those teachers help other teachers in the teaching of math and reading, because they should be taught together. Of all the things I can say, we need to teach reading and math together, and ethical questions that we have. Very good question. Next, yes. Who's next? Who's next? Yeah, yes. Uh-huh.
And I'll just never forgotten the warmth that you showed me. I don't think this is working. But my question has to do with the protests on campus, and how are you expecting campuses to manage that?
It's a great question. I get it all the time. There's several things to be said. Number one, I have spent, and you've got protests of all kinds, but the protest in the Middle East is the one that has caused a number of people to lose jobs. I am very fortunate to have spent a lot of time in Israel on many occasions, maybe 5 or 6 times I've been there. We have large numbers of faculty who are from the Technion and from Hebrew University. We have exchange programs. I mean, students go back and forth. And then we have students from other parts of the Middle East and Muslim students. And for years, we've had, between Hillel and Muslim groups, great conversations focused on trying to understand the other's issues. And the point I make to presidents, first of all, is how important it is to always breathe deeply. When people want to force you to give an answer in a protest, to breathe deeply and wait. I was at Loyola College in the last few months speaking. Loyola here, and I've been at Loyola of Chicago, but I was here in Maryland speaking at Loyola College. And these minority black students were, the audience was predominantly white, but these black students got up and they wanted to, I'm going to use the word bully me into saying I was for the Palestinian cause, period. And they said, you went to jail, you protested, how dare you not be, you know. So I'm looking at them and everybody's very tense. And the first thing I said was, number one, I'm not a new president. Number two, you're not that congresswoman from New York trying to pressure me into say something. And number three, you're better than this. You're better than this. Okay? All right? Because the answer is never simple. And of course, I'm concerned about those hostages. Those are children and people, human beings, people's sons and daughters and others. And of course, I'm concerned about the children of Palestine. So you're not going to get me to say I'm one or the other. And I said this, I said, and if you go and study the issue, you will see that many of my friends in Israel are very concerned about the leadership of the country right now, what's happening. So when you talk about being against Israel, what are you talking about? No. Can't be talking about the people, because when we had another president that some of us weren't happy with, was that to say you're going to be against all of us because we're not happy with that president also? And so what I was able to do, first of all, with the comment about the congresswoman and the way the women were treated there, who were not prepared, they were not. But the key is that when dealing with protests, we have to be able to be truthful. We have to remain calm. We have to let people know you're not getting a direct, immediate answer from me, because these are difficult questions that we have to talk about. And quite frankly, I have a saying about leadership. Effective leadership, I want you to think about this, means keeping everybody minimally dissatisfied. I want you to think about it. Because whatever I say to a group, 40% are going to like it anyway. So you want to make sure what you're saying you truly believe, right? And what I say, and what we did at UMBC when we had protests about a woman's right for freedoms and things like that, was to have our leadership groups come together and let's talk about these things. So that it's not just me giving the answer. UMBC is not just the president. In my book, The Empowered University, first line is, it's not about me, it's about us. And when the university speaks, it should be representing appropriately leadership of the campus, faculty, staff, students, alumni. Even though people may not like what we said, that we've talked about it, we've consulted, we've taken it seriously, all right? You know, and I'm a strong believer in talking about the needs of humankind. That the fact is, very few Americans, if they're not personally involved, have any sense of the complexity of the issues. Very little. I had big fights. Jackie and I, as boyfriend and girlfriend, studied in Egypt. And we had big fights with the professors because they expect you, very British, to just answer the way they wanted you to answer, which was to say one side was right, one side was wrong. And in our country, you know, we teach people, students, to think for themselves. And literally, the Egyptian students were amazed that we would challenge the professors, because they expected us just to write down what they said and to say one side was right and the other side was wrong. And we knew then, even as 19, 18-year-olds, that was not the case. That was not the case at all. There are issues that we have to deal with. So the approach, get people to become better educated. and less arrogant in thinking I've got the only way, the only solution, right? Because I talk to some of my Jewish friends, and they will have different points of view about things. Because critical thinkers don't always agree on everything, but there's some fundamental principles on which we can build. And that's what we've got to get leaders to do. To breathe deeply, to use authenticity, to focus on education and the truth, and understanding the complexity of the issues. It's not a tweeting matter. No, no. When we're all gone, we'll still be dealing with issues around the world. We know this, right? Got to keep doing it.
Dr. Obrowski.
I'll leave, if I can, one more, it's about that time, yeah.
I have one word. Wow.
Well, let me give you last story. Anna Edelstein.
Thank you.
One last story. One of my mentees, Anna went to Beth Tefillah and came to UMBC in biochemistry. Her father was a UMBC graduate. He always said he wasn't a good student and also majored in biochemistry. Yet he went on and had a company, a fabulous biotech company on our campus. And he wanted me to talk to his daughter when she was in the 11th grade. And it was an unusual situation. This is about the significance of stories. Anna's mother had cancer. And listening to her talk about her mother and the support she gave her mother, and her mother died. And Anna could have gone many places. She came, and wonderful Jewish student who was a part of the Ma'ahaf program. She decided because she wanted to help people in science in general, but she also wanted to focus on the issue of cancer. She's graduating this year, straight A's in biochemistry, publications on cancer, having worked up at NYU. She is fabulous. She'll be on her way to get an MD, PhD. Give Anna a round of applause, would you? And that's the point that I want you to remember about UMBC, that we're preparing kids not just for a job, but to lead. Robert Rifkin lived on my street in Owings Mills and came a year early. He's the son of another graduate, Scott Rifkin, who was my doctor. Robert came in, he rebelled, didn't want to be a doctor at first because his dad was a doctor. He majored in philosophy. And then he heard Saul Snyder speak at commencement and decided to come back and get some science courses. He's just finished an amazing MD, PhD program at Mount Sinai, and he's a resident in neuroscience, a neurologist at Columbia University. Not a bad story, right? And so I leave you with the idea, watch your thoughts, they become your words. Watch your words, they become your actions. Watch your actions, they become your character. Watch your character, it becomes your destiny. Thank you all very much.
You do have a plane to catch, correct?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you. Wonderful audience. The thing about, I see it anytime I go to a congregation, it's amazing, is that you're all excellent thinkers. You've been taught to think. I said this to a group of blacks. I said, I want you to look at how some groups focus on education and thinking. You know, this is such a wonderful part of your culture, and I am so respectful. I want you to know that. Thank you all.
You do have a plane to catch,
Yeah,
right?
I do have a plane to catch.
On behalf of Bethel Sisterhood, everyone here and online, thank you for spending your time this afternoon with us. After our phone conversation the other day, I knew that you were going to be a superstar.
This is wonderful.
Have a safe flight.
Thank you. Send your grandkids.
And thank you.
We just tell the Phillipses goodbye. So much, all right. Hi, thank you.
Hi. I wanted to introduce you. I'm one of the co-presidents.
Well, wonderful.
Wanted to meet you. My question, which I know you don't have time, did you manage to attract a champion chess team in the Finland?
Oh, I wish I had time.
I raised my hand. What a fabulous, fabulous speaker and presentation. And thanks everybody for their attention. We're going to do our raffle drawing. Harriet Cohn, do you have more raffles to put in this box? Because you sold more. Bring them up. We're going to pull the raffles now. Okay. All right, the first winning raffle number, can you all hear me? 939942. Come on up. We have a winner, Marcia Greenberg. That's number one. We have 2 prizes. So here's the second one. Cool. Second one, 263312. 263312. Come on up, get your prize. Thank you, ladies. I hope you enjoyed today's opening meeting. And everyone have a happy and healthy new year. Yes. Yes. There are a pair of sunglasses up on the stage. I don't know where they came from, but if you're missing a pair of tortoiseshell sunglasses, they're up here. Anybody?
First of all, I'd love to know who set this up. No, because I'll show you why. No. The way it's done is like this. See the angle coming up? Oh, okay. So now the person that's standing here, even if they're my height, can have it standing directly in front of them. 1, 2. So it should have been about there. Probably that wire pulling it. Anyway.
Just like, I see what it is, it's about level, a little under that, and then
So yeah, you try and do this so that it's not, because this will only bend so far.
right, I know.
So if you got this down here, now the microphone is pointing up their nose. So they're not talking into it. So you want to try and have it above them, or at least at the height of their face. Because the lady that started talking could have had it down here at her level, and then
raise it up.
he can have it there.
Okay. send his dinner over here. So he can dress him. And there will be that much room. There'll be enough room for him to squeeze around, that's it. I'm gonna go use your bathroom, I ain't going all the way up to that. No, I said vacuum. Oh, vacuum. Look, I got my bathroom in my hand. Oh, hell, girl, hell, girl. It might overflow. It's a portable bathroom. It's a portable bathroom. Okay. I need six. I need 6 8-foot. Already on the floor. Huh? Already on the floor. Okay, good. That's everything we're gonna line up on this thing. We got some 8-foot on the floor, actually. Okay. Well, I need one 6. So I need you put 2 back already? Huh? You put 2 back already? What? 8-foot. Yeah. We got that cleaned up really fast. Good. Well, we're so used to doing it. Hold on. I think I need 12. 12 maybe what? 12 rounds, 6 8-foot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. You got 5 on the floor right now. I need 6 8-foot and 1 6. Okay, we got it. Okay, so let's get the 12 over there. See, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Just 2 over there. You ain't got to break it. Roll them over there. Yeah, that one, the chair's broke, so.
How did it broke?
Because the screws coming out of it. Yeah, so that's broke.
Yeah, it broke, but how did, was it broke before you used it?
Look, man, I don't answer those questions, man. I'm just telling you. It's broke.
Was the big girl sitting in here?
Yeah, I don't know, man.
We got a weight limit for your chair, man. It's too heavy for your chair.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So they need 5. And they need the lectins. All right, just move it over to the center.
They need 5.
Yeah, they need 5.
So it's 10. We got the 5.
And they need the video projector.
For 300 chairs?
For the 300 chairs. Because they got the screen.
So it's a circle or it's a
Half moon. Who made this shit up?
half moon? They're like, oh, good. What is Jill? Not Jill.
No, Cancer Black.
No, no. Little short one. Jackie or?
I
So
don't
you
know.
want to make a huggy. Make the room huggy.
Who?
Make the room hug. Come in and hug you. Make the room huggy. What's the name?
Cancer Black.
No, no. It's Soul Center. Before
Jim?
No, it's Soul Center, man.
I don't know. I don't want to make it huggy.
Room, say make a room. Come in. What we trying to do is you already run in a circle. You know, make a room hug for Jill. Is that? Short. She left,
Oh.
and then what's it called came.
Oh, I know you.
Yeah. She had a daughter or something.
Yeah, 2 daughters.
Yeah.
One of them looked just like
Right, one just like it, yeah. You should trying. You look just like you.
Yeah, like her husband had shit to do.
Right, you look like you behind this tall. It's I ain't seen her like
Yeah,
no,